So this is one of my favourite add-ins of all time. It's called Brightslide from a company called Bright Carbon, and it brings a lot of additional and very helpful functionality to PowerPoint, whether you are Windows or Mac, and it is free, which obviously is good news in anyone's language. What I'll do is just highlight a couple of the things that it can do. There is loads more, but these are ones that I find I use the most often. So here we have a table, as you can see from table design up here. And we've talked about this ability and the importance of controlling audience attention. If that slide goes up with the table as it is, people will automatically look at the bottom and see that option 3 scores the highest. And whether that's the bottom row or the far right column, people are used to doing that with tables because that's where the most interesting info tends to be. Now, in terms of adding builds to a native PowerPoint table, you can't, which is interesting. We can with lots of different visuals, but not with the table. There is a workaround, but actually Brightslide just makes the whole thing so much easier. So for this, we can see we've got a Brightslide tab up here, and we've got all this functionality, which only a couple of which we'll look at today. For this functionality, it's to do with the table, we just actually right click, and we can see there's a Brightslide thing here, and we can sort the table, we can transpose the table, so option criteria, switch over, we can convert it to text, should we wish to. What we are going to look at is splitting the table, and depending on how you want to reveal information, you can do that by row, by column, or indeed individual cells. We will just look at split into rows. It's working on it, it's done it. And when I say it's done it, what I mean is we now have individual rows all the way through. So it just means if I apply a very straightforward animation to all of this, we now have the ability, looking at it in slideshow mode, to talk about these options. First criteria, option 4 scored low because of this, option 2 scored highly because of this, and then we work our way down again, option 4 high, and we go all the way through, and then we would reveal giving these totals. But we have controlled attention, we've made it more interesting, and now we can talk about the fact that option 3 comes out on top. In conjunction with morph, we can duplicate this slide and make elements of it more pronounced. They can be bigger text, they can pop out, anything like that that we want to do is possible. But breaking up the table is the first thing we need to be able to do, and here is the quickest way for you to do that. Sticking on the subject of tables. So here is a table that I like the design appearance of. Someone else sends me a table for inclusion in the deck, and they have sent it over in this format, which I don't like. Now, what I don't want to have to do is copy the table and all those things. With Brightslide, we have this functionality. So clicking on that, go to the Brightslide tab, and we have a series of painters. And what we're going to do is the format painter. So that then lifts that format. When I click on the imported table, it's now matched that perfectly, which you can imagine if there's a lot of tables involved, will save me a lot of time. Okay, now that format painter, fortunately, also works with charts. So here's the format I want. This is what I've been sent. Okay, so let me do the same thing again. Format painter. It's both tables and charts. And there we have it. So a really simple way to get that consistency in terms of design. Right, moving on to other things. Quite often there can be elements on a slide and you just want to move, swap them over. Now to move them around and things move is always a bit complicated, but this is really quick. So I choose the two objects, in this case both shapes, and I have this option swap objects. And so that's what I can do to my heart's content. It's not just shapes, it's also icons. It makes no difference. but it just says that, they will be perfectly repositioned in each other's location. And we can also do that with photos. If we're not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg, then we can swap those around. Again, really handy. This is a simplistic example, but when you're looking at actual slides, you'll see how it can work so well. Right, we're updating the most high-profile female pop artists of the modern day. So unfortunately for Beyonce, she has been usurped by Taylor Swift. What I want to show you is how we can use a combination of those things. So that's the image, and I want to put Taylor in there. So I choose the first image, choose the second image, I go to Brightslide, and I just say match to first. So whichever one is the first selected, match to first, I'll match size, match to first, I'll match format. So that's lovely. So now we've got Taylor in the right way, and now all I need to do is swap objects. All I need to do is take the two names, swap objects, and then, so sadly for Beyonce, she disappears from our slide. But again, that typically would take a lot of time. Another thing that's useful with lots of different items on a slide is to say, right, I've got this, there's a lot of things here. I actually only want to select circles. But rather than find them, and they could be hidden behind something else, there's one over here, I know that. But what I've got is this option, select objects, and you'll see straight away all these different criteria for selecting what I want. So let me just go shape type. There we have all the circles. Then if I wanted to, I could swap them. It works with text. So I won't go through all the different examples, but let's just say font color, anything that's red, it will pick up, and then I can do with them whatever I wanted to do. Right, and let's move on. For accuracy, if I have that size rectangle, but just this size triangle, then what I can do is match to first again. This time I'm just going to match height. That's made that exactly the same. Let's just make sure that is the case. You can see by the lining up arrows. Here's something else. I've imported this image in. And this time what I want to do is match to slide. Match the size. And it just makes that small image the whole slide. Which again, really useful. I don't have to do any sort of cutting, cropping into certain aspect ratios. All works really, really well. I've imported a block of text. Clearly this isn't the way forward for us, but it's just I've got a lot of text and I want to present that slightly differently. Here's what I can do. I have a function called split text. It's one paragraph, so there's no point in clicking on that, but if I click on by sentence, it breaks it into those 4 sentences. I can now separate them, I could delete one, I could align them with an icon that that sort of visualizes or gives a visual depiction of what it is that I'm talking about. And conversely, if I've got lots of different text boxes, I can click on merge text and it will make them back into one. Okay, on to the last thing that I'm choosing to talk about. You may be familiar with the notion of a waffle chart, which is a way of representing 100% or a percentage within 100, in this instance, squares, that is a much more visual thing than just writing 80%. Now, here's my large blue square. What we have, again, on the Brightslide tab is this thing called Repeat and Distribute. And it is set to be 10 by 10. I can change these things here. That would just alter the spacing between them. But yes, I click OK. And then if I wanted to talk about that, some variation on an 80-20 rule type thing, I can just go to the shapes, change the shape color, make that orange, and there I've got my visual depiction of 80%. And it's not just regular shapes, it can be icons, so depending on the theme of what it is you're talking about, we can make it relevant, which is obviously always a good thing to do. Back to Brightslide, repeat and distribute, and what we all know is we got a couple of rabbits. It's not long before we have a lot of rabbits. There's so much additional functionality. It would take hours to actually put it onto a single video. Download it. The link is, I'll make that link available to you. And it works, as I say, both Windows and Mac. It is free, and it will change how you operate in PowerPoint. It will help you create better slides, and it will certainly take less time. Enjoy.